Hey guys, today we're going to take a close look at one of my all-time favorite plants, and that plant is elderberry. In this video, I'm going to show you how I harvest, how I process, dry, and store this plant. And at the end, I'm actually going to use elderberry itself as a friction fire set to make fire and make myself some elderberry tea. So come along with me. You don't want to miss this one. Okay guys, before we get started, fair warning here. All parts of the elderberry plant are toxic. There is a small amount of toxin in this plant. I mean, the berries, the leaves, the stems themselves, it's all toxic. Cooking, be it teas or syrups, or making them into some sort of jelly, does destroy the toxin. It eliminates it. So, more about that later, but right now you need to know that. Also, we're going to take our time, if the crows will stop singing, to take a closer look at the plant itself before we move on to its lookalikes, which you should never take and mistaken for this. But more about that in a moment. There are the leaves. You always want to make sure that you properly identify any plant. Cross-reference it against at least 2 different books. That's what I do. I highly recommend Samuel Thayer's books. Okay, one of the first lookalikes that I want to discuss is pokeberry. Now, this is pokeberry, and if you remember earlier in the video, you can see that elderberry, the berries themselves kind of spread out, whereas pokeberry hangs down in these clusters, like so. And the body, we'll take a close look at it too. It's purple. And look at the leaves. Some of the leaves are just massive. I don't think I've ever actually seen elderberry leaves that large. I mean, I may be wrong. But once you see the differences between these two plants, you just kind of cannot unsee them. I don't think they look anything alike. Some people do mistake them. So this one, avoid. Now, the other plant that you need to really be concerned with, and it is, it's kind of, for some people, difficult to distinguish, and that's called the devil's walking stick. Now, it does grow in my area. Unfortunately, I could not find one for this video. But what I will do is I will include a couple of pictures here in a moment of what the devil's walking stick looks like, so you can see that. Also, couple of things when I'm collecting these. First thing, I like to make sure that the elderberry that I collect is near a water source. And the reason being, those that are near an open water source, like the creek, the small river that's actually right beside of these, they actually are going to be more full and robust, like you see these right here. So always, if you can, collect them near that, a water source. Oftentimes I will take these right off the bank. These are close enough, but you can see there are no green ones. They are not shriveled. And these are just full, robust, and ripe. They're ready to collect. When I'm collecting these, I don't use scissors or a knife to remove them from the plant itself. There's just a point on them back here, a little bit behind all the berries, and I just basically snap it, and you'll find that it just breaks right off. Now, I've done this a bunch over the years, so it's easy for me. But if you want, and you want to practice that without damaging or, losing a lot of the berries, what you'll do is find one like this and practice on those, okay? The ones that have already been picked over or there's not much left. That way you can get a feel for it. Before I go any further, I just want to say that my preferred method of drying elderberry is to air dry them on these fine mesh screens. Now, when I moved here, I misplaced those, so I no longer have them. What I'm going to be doing in this video is using an older method where I use cardboard box tops and I place paper towels on the inside of those and I let those set for a couple weeks. I've never had a problem with that method. I've actually used to take them and leave them on the stem and place them into the boxes. Never had a problem with that method, but my preferred method is to use fine mesh screens to air dry them because I believe the airflow was better. Okay guys, I've collected about 3 dozen of those elderberry tops. Now, once I get them home, all I'm going to do to separate them is I'm going to take a 5-gallon bucket with a drum liner, and all I'm going to do is take this drying rack and I'm going to put on top. Now, this is a very simple process. Makes it much easier to get these off. I'm just going to rotate it back and forwards, like this right here. Sometimes you lose a few, but for the most part, no. I get them pretty much all. Just like that. Once I've finished separating the elderberry from the stems, all I do is take and put it into a colander. Now I'm only going to go about halfway full on the colander because I like to get a thorough rinse with these. Nothing fancy here. Just give them a little bit of a rinse. Move them around. Once I've finished rinsing them in the colander, what I do is give them a good shake, make sure the excess water is off, and then I'll spread them out on paper towels like this. Now this is just a small amount. I've collected about 10 times this much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a separate piece of paper towel, place over top, gently pat it. I'm going to let this set, and I'm going to start rinsing the rest. And then I'll show you guys how I air dry these. Once I've pat dried the elderberry, I will take that elderberry, place it onto a separate piece of paper towel, place it inside these cardboard boxes like so, and then it goes into a rack in my storage room where they will air dry for the next couple weeks. And I'll show you that in a moment. All I did was simply place these up onto this rack. Now I have plenty of rack storage space. I've got some hand drill spindles that I'm going to be removing and placing somewhere else, but all of the herbs, elderberry and whatnot, goldenrod tops and whatnot that I collect to dry are all going to go up here on this rack in my storage room. And I have a lot. I have air dried like this for a very long time. I have never been sick from allowing them to air dry because they're going to get boiled into tea. I've never had them form, mold or fungus or something like that on them. So to me, this is a safe method. People have been air drying elderberry for, who knows, hundreds of years. My neighbors used to sun dry them. Now, from my understanding, they told me that you need at least 4 or 5 good days, almost a week of, nothing but sunlight, so you can sun dry them. Myself, I personally have never sun dried them. This is the way I've pretty much always dried. Now, I used to actually leave them on the stem and place them into these boxes, and I never had a problem with that method. If you don't feel like separating them like I did, then just, try that out too. Leave them on the stem. But me, I like to separate them and put them into these boxes because it makes the process easier. When they dry, I can just place them into containers at that point. It's been about 2 weeks now, and the elderberry has dried. The elderberry is firm to the touch and has shrank down to, I would say, about 1/4 the size of when I first placed it in this box. Now, as far as storage, I'm going to take and place all the elderberries from my drying racks, which is another, I think, 13 boxes just like this, into mason jars. And I'm going to place those into my cabinet, and whenever I want elderberry tea, I will take some with me when I go hiking and camping. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, I will be making myself elderberry tea over fire that I make by using a friction fire set made from the elderberry plant itself. So, come along with me. Okay, I think it's just now coming to a simmer, which is what I'm after. Yeah, you can see it simmering. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off. I'm going to set it aside and let it steep for about 10 to 12 minutes, maybe even 15. So good. It's so good. My gosh. And here's a close-up of the friction fire set made entirely from the elderberry plant. It's the hearth. And this is the spindle. Amazing plant. I just wanted to say that you can collect ripe elderberry in the field and make it into a tea, but you're still going to have to boil it to destroy the cyanotic compound. I never do it that way anymore, simply for the fact that during harvest, I collect enough and have leftover going into next season's harvest. So I always have some on hand. I want to thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. A couple things before I close. Once again, all parts of the elderberry plant are toxic, so you will need to cook it before consuming it. As far as the health benefits, it's just loaded with antioxidants. It's healthy for your heart, it will boost your immune system, and supposedly it even fights viruses. It's fascinating stuff. You should read up on it. Take care and have a good day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.